Welcome to the Not Your Normal Life podcast. Before we get started, I would like to warn you that this podcast may contain adult themes and bad language. Hope you enjoy. Okay, welcome to the first episode of the Not Your Normal Life podcast. I'm Alex, one of your co-hosts, and I'm here with Aaron Baxter.
Hello.
This is a shortcut to introductions, just an introduction to the podcast, to who we are, where we are in the world, what we're doing, how we met, things we're into, what we're going to be discussing on the podcast, and the whole point of the podcast, why we're doing it, what we're setting out to achieve. So without further ado, let's get into it. Do you want to start? Just introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'll start. Yeah, hello. My name's Aaron Baxter. I'm 25. I'm from Yorkshire, England. And I'm what you'd call kind of a typical 25-year-old Yorkshire boy. I love sport, football. I can watch rugby, cricket, most things that are really on TV for sports. As a football fan, big Liverpool fan. So I've had a lot of pain and suffering in the last 2 decades, but in recent times, it's a pretty good time to be a Liverpool fan.
But not Leeds, which is...
Leeds, no, my family are Liverpool fans, but as growing up, you'd go to Liverpool game every couple of weeks with it being so expensive, like 50, 60, now upwards of £70 for a good ticket. You're talking 2 or 3 tickets, 4 tickets for the family to go, plus travel and food. It can come up to nearly, £500, £600 for the day out.
It's expensive, isn't it?
Yeah, but it was a case of if I was with my friends on a Saturday shopping in Leeds or something, we'd know the Leeds game was on or a Bradford City game was on, and you could go and watch Bradford or Leeds, when I was a teenager for 15 up to £25 a ticket. So really good value, and you get to watch some relatively entertaining football. But yeah, like I said, the same with Liverpool. Liverpool struggled in the Premier League for 2 decades, and then Leeds weren't doing too great either. So
good time to be alive in 2020.
Yeah, dark times for me as a football fan, but now it seems, Leeds flying high and Liverpool doing as they are. It's a pretty good time.
Times have changed, which leads us nicely into where you actually are now. The young boy from Yorkshire, where is he now? What's he doing now?
Yeah, couldn't be much more random and weird. From little old Yorkshire, went to university and met you, and we'll touch on that in a bit. And through some just weird opportunities that life just throws at you, I ended up in Ho in Mongolia, which I thought was in Mongolia when I was told. Originally, I was like, I'm going to Mongolia. And they're like, no. Inner Mongolia. I was like, oh, okay. It's probably one of the northernmost provinces in China. It's an autonomous region that borders Mongolia. And the culture and the people here are very much Han Chinese and Mongolian nationals. So there's its own specific dialect, as well as speaking traditional Mongolian and Mandarin Chinese. I've been here I came with you, obviously, you know that, in 2018. And then we've sort of followed our own paths. I've remained here, and you've gone on to do your things in Japan. I was primarily a football coach out here, working with children in the region at local primary schools, as well as running summer camps and winter camps and things. But as time has progressed, the model for football in Mongolia is quite a hard one to succeed due to the education system imposed on the kids. It's so intensive here in China. So I've transitioned, the company I work for also runs a fairly large English training school. And for the people who are listening, they won't really understand that too much, but a big part of modern Chinese education is that the kids do intensive English classes outside of their already very, very packed education in the state school. So on the weekends and evenings, I'll teach English to kids, and very much the same as teaching in England. You get kids that are lovely and nice and stuff, and you get little evil ones. So it's all ebb and flow.
But that's, I mean, going back to you going out there originally for coaching, that's how we met. I mean, we're more or less. I mean, I'm Alex. I'm your other co-host. I'm 24, just turned 24. I'm living in Tokyo, but previously was living in China with Aaron. But we went out there together. We met in university. We were studying a sports coaching degree. An opportunity popped up with a football club that, should we leave it unnamed?
Yeah, I think
let's leave it unnamed. Shithousery. But so an unnamed football club that took us out to China, and it was an incredible experience, but not everything I maybe had hoped for. There are massive cultural and primarily educational barriers to succeeding in achieving their goals as a country for football. So they pumped loads of money into it, but it didn't work out. So I've moved to Tokyo. I'm still coaching football here. You're in China. And yeah, so that's how we met, through uni. So going from there then, from university, should we touch on first impressions, how we first met? Do you want to go?
Yeah. So
what do you remember? I'm sure we've got different stories here, so you go first.
Yeah, I remember applying to a completely different course, first of all, and at the university. Well, and then so I was like, right, I'm going to Chester. So putting in the sat nav in my mum's car, like in the little screen thing, the postcode, and the whole time I'm entering it, my mum and stepdad are saying, that's not a Chester postcode. I'm like, oh, shut up, you don't know what you're talking about. Clearly, it's from the university. It says Chester University. Like, you idiots. So that they're telling me it's not the right postcode, but I put it in, and it says Warrington. And I've been to Warrington before. I know of Warrington. I know only probably about the rugby club there, and that is a rugby league town. It's a real working class town. So
that's more than I knew.
Yeah, the sat nav says go to Warrington. So okay, we get in, and we're like kind of making calls on the way down there, like, what's going on, and then they say, yeah, no, like the sports course is at the Warrington campus of Chester University. I was like, oh, okay. I was thinking, oh, so we live in Chester, and then we're going to commute to Warrington. That's what I thought. Like, it's a 20-minute, 30-minute drive or something. So we'd get the train or a bus or something to go to uni. That's what because I know a lot of other big universities have a lot of travel involved between lectures and campuses and things like that. So I thought maybe that was the case. I get there and I see this little, it doesn't look bad. It's quaint, kind of a little bit dated.
I thought you could describe me then. I saw this little quaint dated. But yeah,
get there, and then I find this Halls building, Lancaster Hall, the famous Lancaster Hall, as we'll touch on that. And and there's people, just typical first day of uni. Everyone's mum and dad's there, cars packed to the rafters, and I get out and I go to my room, and I'm thinking, everyone's kind of already here, and they're all kind of already unpacking. So I just walk in my room and just dump all of my boxes and suitcase on the floor and on the bed. Don't make the bed, don't unpack anything, and just I see in my like hand luggage bag I brought, there's a nice big bottle of ouzo that I just got from the last holiday I went on, and I was like, I'll stick that on the side. So I've got everything everything still packed, just boxed up and taped up. And then the only thing unpacked is a bottle of nice ouzo on the side, which is like, how do you describe it? Like, if people who don't know what ouzo is,
I would
Sambuca.
The closest thing you could describe it to is it's like a slightly, I'd say, less harsh Sambuca. Like a nice drink, but if you don't like aniseed, if you don't like licorice, probably not for you.
I don't know. And then I just spot a group of guys, which was you and a couple of our other friends. You either had a football or you were talking about football.
Yeah, we had a football.
Yeah. So I walk over, introduce myself, and then I find out that we're all more or less either in the same lectures or on the same course. So that was a good start. Yeah, first impressions were just that you were like-minded guys to me. You liked football. So that's from, as football fans and young men, it's the easiest bonding point. You can just go, football, and then everyone's kind of, friends.
That was it. No, it was the same for me.
Yeah.
It was pretty much exactly the same. I'd actually not achieved the results I wanted to, and was not able to go on the course I wanted to at main campus Chester. Got told there's a Warrington campus, which I actually thought they were a set of halls of accommodation about 100, 200 yards from main Chester campus, which I'd already been and visited. So I was thinking, oh, Cushly, I'll be down the road. Anyway, like WA2 didn't mean anything because I live in Bedford, or I came from Bedford, but it was an MK postcode. So I didn't think anything of the postcode. And then I find out I'm like nearly 2 counties away, and it's an old military base, and it's such a far cry from Chester campus. If you know Chester campus or you've ever been to Chester, it's a Roman city, very beautiful, very classic, and a lot of class about the place. And unfortunately, same can't be said for 90% of Warrington. And so I've gone there. I've been dropped off by a very emotional mum who was moving to Japan to join my dad in their second journey to go and live in the country. And I just remember the first 2 people I met were called Alex. And so I thought, oh, great. So we've gone around as a group of 3, just going, we're the Alexes. Like, I felt like one of the 7 dwarfs. It felt ridiculous. But then we found a football, we've gone outside, had a kick about, and that's where I met you guys. And then we've done all the inductions or whatever. But yeah, first impressions, very much the same. Like-minded, polite, educated. You said you were on the same course, and then just started clicking. First impressions, sporty, cool, like down to earth. I think pretty much sums up our first memory. When you say ouzo, that's one of my first memories of you. I just think purple hoodie and a bottle of ouzo and a massive pitcher full of straws. You're just going around mixing and letting everyone tuck in. I mean, given everything that's happened over the last year, that seems pretty insane now to go around and share straws with everyone. But at the time, it was amazing time of our lives. One of the best weeks of my life. Amazing. Good times.
I'd just come off my what I thought was going to be a potential football career whimpering and dying. So I'd come to university thinking, and like at the time, my girlfriend who I was dating went to the University of Manchester. So I understood the university life. And for the last year or so, I'd been half living in Manchester and half living at home. So I was really like aware of the freshers, all the perks you get and the easy life kind of, But so I come to uni and I'm like, oh, this one looks a bit shit. But then quickly I realized that it really isn't about what uni you're at and the facilities and stuff like that. It's all about the people that you're there with. Yeah.
We were just having fun. We didn't know that we were making memories. And you look back on that now and you think, you were so caught up in the moment. You didn't realize in years to come, you'd look back on those as some of the most pivotal and important and happy memories of your life. So not to get too deep too quick, but this was a good time for us. It was an interesting time and the start of a friendship that's lasted us 6 years now, and we lived together for a good part of 4.5 years of those. So I mean, more to be said on that as the weeks roll by and the months roll by and the podcasts come out, but yeah, interesting beginnings.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as well, like when you're in that bubble in the moment, you really don't think about, oh, this is the start, this is the first year, I've only got 2 more years left of this, pretty much, or 2 and a bit years left of this. You don't really see the end coming, and the end of the university creeps
so
up on
quickly.
you so fast. And then when it's gone, you assume that this lifestyle will just continue, and very, very quickly you realize, oh shit, like that was the good days. That was the easy living, and then you're in the big wide world on your own.
It's amazing. I mean, I've just got goosebumps listening to you say it, because it really was such a precious time when you think about how short-lived it was and the people you meet and how concentrated and exaggerated all the relationships and experiences were. It was incredible. But I mean, going from there, then we know about you. We've said a little about where we're from, how we met, and you touched before on your passions and your hobbies. You said you're a Liverpool fan. You've gone to the odd Leeds game, but there's a lot more to you than just being a Liverpool fan. This is something that I grew to understand about Aaron, is you find out something more or less every week or every month. You got different hobbies. You're a very well-rounded person with lots of different interests. So would you tell us a bit more about
Yeah, absolutely.
different, pastimes and hobbies and
Yeah,
whatnot.
I grew up with a really, really diverse kind of our family, we live, 15, 20 minutes drive. You can get to the center of Bradford or the center of Leeds. And so you've got well, the cities, and particularly Leeds is a really, really a modern, a really good, for me, like a shining beacon of what a good northern city is. It's got working class people, but then it's got like the football, the fashion, the shopping, the lifestyle. So for me, it's a lot less hectic than London, and that's a slightly slower pace of life, which I enjoy. But yeah, so I've got the city nearby, and we owned a farm. So I grew up like farm life, city life, football, all these things. I grew up without knowing with a really eclectic and diverse taste. We'd be with cows in the morning, and then I'd be drinking in bars in Leeds in the evening, and stuff. So I grew up around loads of things that a lot of people around me didn't really have, like things like animals and all the problems that farm life brings. So I grew up super eclectic with just sport, music, and I've got two older brothers that are completely different to me. So that was a really like strange experience compared to a lot of other people, I guess. I come to uni and I knew I loved sport. I can watch almost any sport, cricket, Formula One, all these things. I kind of like boxing, but I always felt with boxing there was a little something missing. Like there was a bit of action that I couldn't fully enjoy it as much. And I understood that I could respect the sport and respect they call it the sweet science of boxing. But yeah, it wasn't until I knew about MMA, but for me, MMA, we had this horrible stereotype of you're a cage fighter.
You're
a
a street
brawler,
fighter, you're a
you're
gangster.
a reprobate. You're from a broken home, and you just go in there and fuck people up in a cage, borderline illegally or whatever. And it was a cruel blood sport. Whereas to me, boxing had always been sold to me as the gentleman's the art of boxing. Of hit and not get hit.
Gentleman's combat sport, wasn't it? Or isn't it still?
It's classy and it's just so rich and so glamorous.
It's fencing with your hands, isn't it? Really, with the footwork and the points.
Great way of putting it. Yeah. Fencing. It's a real skillful art. Was to me cage fighting at the time as it was known. MMA was for me. I felt like people that called it MMA, they were kind of trying to soften the term of cage fighting. Barbaric, but then Conor McGregor was making noises, and I knew of like Chuck Liddell and people like that. But then it was a couple of major UFC events whilst I was at university. People were talking about and watching, and I think I watched one or two and just fell completely in love. I was like, that is so exciting.
Yeah,
I still didn't really understand it. I understood. They grab each other and they're on the floor and they'll hit each other and they've got different martial arts styles or something. But yeah, I had no knowledge or real appreciation for it until I became from a casual fan, I guess, into not a hardcore fan, but a fairly educated fan. Yeah, is that kind of the same for you?
Yeah, no, I think it's more or less exactly the same. Do you know what it was that got me into MMA and the UFC specifically? It was BT Sport. Shout out to BT. I remember my life changed one year when my dad decided, screw it, we can afford to get BT. We've never really had Sky. We just sort of had bog standard channels, but we could afford to pay a subscription to BT. We get BT Sport. Alex can watch the Arsenal play on it like once a month, and you lose on the game that gets aired. But by chance, one summer, I was sat there flicking through the channels. There were only preseason games on, so I flick over and I see The Ultimate Fighter, and I ended up watching what's gone down as one of the best seasons of The Ultimate Fighter, which for those of you that don't know is an opportunity for young prospects in mixed martial arts to gain a position in the UFC. They go through a process of elimination fights and then get to a final two that fight on the early prelim of a main event. So they can be, they're viewed by hundreds, sometimes thousands, sometimes more, and get their name out there. They can get a contract with the UFC. They start getting paid to fight. So it's a really interesting process. And this season specifically, the head coaches of the teams were Chael Sonnen and John Jones, which again, for those of you that don't watch UFC or don't know those names, they are two of the biggest names in UFC history. Chael Sonnen now is becoming famed for being a pundit, but is an incredible fighter with a wrestling background. John Jones is arguably the best pound for pound fighter that's ever lived, with lots and lots of controversy surrounding his name, but you can't take anything away from the guy. He's an absolute living legend and will go in the Hall of Fame for sure. But yeah, instantly hooked just like you. But we're not only into sport, are we? I mean, there's football, there's MMA primarily, like you said, a bit of Formula One, boxing, golf for myself, and cricket in the past, and this and that. But we're also, you're into your music, you're into your TV, your movie, you know. So tell us a little bit about other forms of entertainment and art that interest you.
I think we've both got a really eclectic taste in sport. We can watch and appreciate athletic prowess and performance. I think that kind of translates into music and other facets of life.
It's greatness, isn't it? It's being great, or maybe sometimes people that aren't necessarily perceived by the general public as great, but seeing those dark horses. And I think I could speak on behalf of both of us when I say that's what really interests us with everyone, with everything.
Yeah, seeing people from different walks of life and different circumstances,
different styles, different disciplines of everything.
That's the thing for the casual fan in MMA doesn't really, or maybe doesn't see at first, is that just like the variability in styles, and there's infinite possibilities in how to win and to how to be and perform in it, which completely to me is something new, because I come from a very rigid sport viewing experience. You're a tennis player, you know, a forehand's a good forehand, and then exceptionally you'll get like Rafa Nadal, who can do something like a wizard, or even Roger Federer. He's doing the same techniques that are allowed, that everyone sees, but he's just good at them, very good at them.
Yeah.
But in the UFC, you see a million different ways to skin a cat, like you see. And I think that translates into our music and media and even cultural tastes. We can appreciate so many different, like when we lived together in China here, we'd listen to so many, or we'd show each other so many different new music styles and bands and artists and stuff. And pretty easily we can appreciate either the musical talent or the ingenuity it takes to create something unique or whatever. So I think we've got just a general really eclectic taste to life. I keep saying the word eclectic, and I think it's the most
I think it's
suitable word for it. Yeah, we've got a real diverse appreciation for lots of different things. But yeah, we covered football. We love sport. You know, music tastes. We support the British music scene. We love like grime. If you don't know grime is our. If you want to put it into an Americanism way, it's our cultural rap. It's our drill. It's our hip hop. Our expression of oppression against authority and things like that. That's what grime is. It's the real life people sharing real life stories and struggles through a medium that's like rap with a British accent, or a London accent, or whatever. So we're into that, but then we can appreciate old music, because again, like we came from families that grew up in eras of the 60s, 70s, and 80s, 90s. Wow. So we've got that love for the 80s. We love classical rock. We love the ballads. We love the funk. We love the disco and the DJ and
just about everything.
Yeah, and then we grew up during the early 2000s. We got we caught the end of the 90s with the Britpop and the new wave. Then you get your Britney Spears and Westlife, and so that I remember I had a Walkman CD player. And if you'd walk down the stairs too fast, the CD would skip and jump. Yeah. I remember thinking, this is the pinnacle of technology. This is the shit. I am the man.
If you're a 90s kid,
Yeah,
Walkman. But I mean, I definitely agree. We're well-rounded. We do have, in terms of our taste, and we're very much open books. We like learning new things, hearing new sounds, watching new sport, seeing new, we like watching history being made, basically, which is happening every day with the way the music and the sports scene are respectively at the minute. But if you had to put your music tastes in 3 different categories for 3 genres, what would you say you're mainly into? I think I could almost do this for you, but I'm interested if you come up with some sort of curveball.
Yeah, well, I went through a phase of teenage angst where it got into, I call it the end of the American pop punk era,
Yeah, yeah,
which
yeah.
is now it's sadly dead, but there's some 41s and things like that. I caught the end. I caught the last sort of like hurrah of that
Hey
wave.
man, Blink are still
Yeah,
making albums.
yeah, yeah,
Blink 182
yeah.
made a banging album. But
Shout
sorry,
out to Blink
go
One
on,
Eight
go
Two.
on.
Tom DeLonge is a bit of a weird guy, but Travis Barker,
Shout out to them, then take
shout
shots
out
at
to
them.
Travis Barker, but not Tom DeLonge. You're a bit weird, mate. But yeah, I'd say um, a soft DJ EDM, like a trance or like electro funk pop kind of. I
Okay.
can appreciate that, and then rock, and then I'd say more or less I listen to mainstream, and then slightly under that mainstream current of modern rap and
Right.
hip hop. Yeah,
I think that's about spot on. I don't know for you, like I wouldn't have, having lived with you in that, I wouldn't have said you were massively into your trance or but then everyone goes through phases, you dip in and out,
yeah,
and then some things remain consistent over time. But it's one of those, I mean, obviously, I would have probably put subcategories in. So when you say rock, that covers just about everything, doesn't it? So like
yeah, yeah,
that's probably spot on, absolutely spot on for you. But yeah, same really. Maybe rather than electronic, like sort of trancey music, I would say hmm, maybe like 80s, anything 80s for me, whether it's cheese, whether it's like new romantic, whether it's rock, uh, just 80s in general, then rock and rap in all of their different forms and in all of their different variations.
yeah,
But yeah, pretty much the same. So I mean, we could go into TV and we could go into movies as well. But the fact of the matter is, we watch a lot. We watch a lot of
yeah,
both. We're into comedy. We're into action. We've watched pretty much all of your mainstream TV shows, your Breaking Bad, your Sopranos, your Game of Thrones, like
yeah, yeah,
your cartoons, your Family Guy, Simpsons, Future, all of that sort of stuff, and then the odd sort of underrated or
niche,
alternative
yeah,
TV, niche TV shows that didn't last long or were unaired for whatever reason. But fact of the matter is, we consume a lot of media, we enjoy it, and we're damn set on talking about it and getting some opinions and doing some ratings and asking questions on it and getting each other's opinions and then seeing where that goes in the future. Away from the podcast, we'll have hour-long conversations, 2-3 hours. And really, when you look at it, we won't have spoken about all that much. We talk a lot. We
yeah,
have a lot to say, a lot of opinions, and we are interested in a lot of different things. So,
yeah. You're
if
right.
if you like any of those, if you're into your sport, if you're into your media, then have a listen because we really think you'll enjoy it. But I think one of the main topics that we haven't yet mentioned, I mean, briefly in our introduction, but is travel. I mean,
Yeah,
Aaron is from Yorkshire. He's living in China now. I'm from a small town called Bedford, near London in the UK. And I'm living in Tokyo. Previously, had gone to China with Aaron. And one of the things we're really passionate about, and obviously stop me if I'm speaking out of turn, Aaron, but we're really passionate about seeing more of the world, experiencing new cultures, new food. We're quite big foodies, so you'll hear a lot of that on this podcast. Meeting new people, making new experiences in ways that we never dreamed possible as children and young adults. And I think one of the main reasons we're doing this podcast is we're trying to appeal to a wide range of people, expats, locals in our respective countries that are interested in English or expat culture, sport heads and media heads, like we said before, and you get average Joe sort of gamers and movie TV fans. But having been influenced and inspired and educated by so many different people in our lives and so many different
yeah,
places and so many different podcasts as well, there's that philanthropic element. We feel there's a duty, a responsibility to give back. Maybe our casual conversations could have the potential to encourage, inspire, and alert others of opportunities and hobbies and pastimes that they weren't previously aware existed. You know, we're out here to shatter some stereotypes and to let people know there's a life out here, a beautiful life that you never ever knew existed. So come out and see it and have a taste.
Absolutely. I couldn't have put that any better myself. That's a great way of putting it. Like, if you're from, for me, like, we've both got Northern English roots, and you grow up in small town vibes and things like that. It almost puts the idea of, well, you know, don't dream big, don't dream to see the rest of the world. And the way that particular Asian culture is, it's not taught in English schools. It's not a main topic. It's not a hot thing to be discussed in England and taught. You know, so I had no idea that by this, like, if you would have told me from the first year of university to the end, like, oh, when you finish, you're going to be living in China. You're going to be living in northern China and things like that. I would never have even. It wasn't even an idea I thought of something I wanted to do. I always knew I wanted to travel. I always knew that I wanted to form my own opinions of the world and see and break down the stereotypes, because for me, you can't trust necessarily everyone else's experiences or
No.
the news or things, and people are just people. I always had this idea that people are people. Some are good, some are bad, and some are weird. And
Some are all.
Yeah, some are all.
Some are all of the above.
And everywhere you go, I had always, even when you go on holiday and things like that, I had this idea of, I bet 90% of people, if you just smile and you just, you know, you hold the door for them or you buy them a beer or whatever, then everyone's just nice and fine, and it breaks down all these barriers. And I couldn't say anything, like, that's so true with here, and I think you're the same with Japan.
Totally.
But coming to China, I was like, so I had no idea about Chinese culture. I didn't even know Inner Mongolia itself is actually China. So that's another thing.
Yeah.
Like I said, and then coming here, I realized that it's a strange thing as a foreigner coming here. You're a bit of a, I wouldn't want to say celebrity, but out of a few million people, there's maybe only
You stick out like a sore thumb,
100
don't you?
foreigners here. Yeah. 100 foreigners out of maybe a 4 or 5 million population in this city here. It was a really strange experience first coming here, but very quickly you become accustomed to it, and then you learn to respect everybody's culture and traditions here, and then you realize it's actually not so different to England in terms of the people, and you know, it's just that they grew up differently, different society, but most people are nice, friendly, warm people. Some are weird and some are a bit fucking crazy, but
I think it is important to note on that subject that Inner Mongolia, for anyone that doesn't know, and I'm sure 99.9% of the 5 people that will listen to this will realize, or won't realize how remote Inner Mongolia is in terms of, you know, in relation to, say, for example, Beijing or Hong Kong or Tokyo, or it's not like going to New York and Americans going, oh, they're blatantly, obviously English. It's very different. A lot of these people will have never seen a white person before. So it's something that I did personally struggle with, but that's sort of good days and bad days. On good days, you smile and wave. On bad days, you flip people off and you make a really bad impression, actually. And I feel really guilty about all those bad days, because I was representing my people. I was representing people that I want to come out and have those experiences, and then I've already given them a bad name. Like, we have a responsibility. But yeah, it's slightly different. I mean, in Tokyo, especially, you can sort of let people over the age of 60, 70 off because they're still pretty interested, and this wasn't happening when they were our age. But below 60, 70, if people are staring and taking videos for you, you're well within your right to go and give them a fucking earful. But yeah, so it's not all like that, but it is so interesting. It's I hope that people will listen to future podcasts, this podcast, and take something away from it, you know, be interested to travel out here and you know, to Asia's so different. You can go to America, you can go to South America, you can go to Oceania, but Africa and Asia for me are so different to anything you'll have ever experienced in your life. It's so worth getting out here and just dipping your foot in and just seeing what you like, seeing how you feel, seeing how people's preconceptions have influenced you and how wrong some people were.
Yeah. For me, it's like the West in general. I'm obviously stereotyping massively when I say this, but they share a lot of the same culture. We share our
No,
pop
yeah,
culture. Our pop culture is so
it's true.
intertwined with, you know, all of Europe, all of
Yeah,
America.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
all kind of the same. So we kind of like our only content that we digest in terms of the news, in terms of media, sport, culture, food, everything. It is all this, you know, in England, you know, this English food might not be the most heralded in the world as being the most, you know, sophisticated or the most elegant and complex foods, but we share all those foods with America and Italy, France, and Spain. We all share this thing, but Chinese food and Asian culture and things, Asian culture has really managed to, or Asian countries have really managed to sustain and keep the old ways alive and keep the old culture. And I think the same with Africa. They're
Yeah.
very, very true to the
In
roots and the
touch with the
heritage.
roots of their heritage. Yeah, exactly. Took the words out of my mouth.
Yeah,
Exactly.
incredibly proud. Everyone here is incredibly proud to be Chinese, and what that means here is, you know, that, and to be Asian, it means that you're very, very family and community oriented. You love, you do things for your family, you do things for your community and those around you, which is something I'd never really considered so much, because growing up in the West, you're very, you know, we're super about the American dream. We're about, I can make it, I can
We're
get,
very
you know,
selfish in our ways, generally. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but we're just raised to live in a way that you can do things for yourself, and the people that came before you don't have to follow the same footsteps, which is great.
Yeah.
And you can go and make your own life and your own journey. Whereas here, it's a very much a thing of, okay, my mum and dad, they gave me everything. My family,
Yeah.
my community have given me everything. And I will do the best I can to represent my family and my community and my hometown and my people to the highest standard I can, which is something that's a really beautiful thing.
Again, I mean, you've said it absolutely perfectly there, but I think you've hit the nail on the head within hitting the nail on the head. It's not a bad thing to experience a different culture. It's just different. It's not, it's up to you to decide whether you like it or not, but we really want to break that mold of, you know, especially in small towns. And I think we do come from small towns, both of us, and 90% of people in our small towns. And I obviously don't want to do a disservice to those people that are open-minded and willing to get out and see the world and willing to have people come to their countries and, you know, exchange cultures and take what you like and leave what you don't like. That's how the world progresses. But it's just different. Come out and decide for yourself. Take that plunge, take that step, and don't let anyone else tell you can't. We've not necessarily made it. We're making it. We're making our own lives. We're paving our own path, and no one's really telling us where to go, what to do. We're just enjoying the process. And I think specifically with China and Japan, everyone just thinks rice fields, Last Samurai, like terracotta warriors, Cantonese Chinese food and sushi, and that's it. But there's so much more to it than that.
In the West, we define our success on their opinion of others. You know, do they think I'm successful, or he's successful because he's done this, this, and this? And coming here was something I realized that success is something that you have to define by yourself. And for me, success to me is, you know, personal development and growth, seeing more of the world, forming my own opportunities. And I love being wrong about preconceptions I had. I love being pleasantly surprised about, oh, I thought this was this way, and now I see it this. It's a way more black. It's not black and white. There's a big gray area and things. And so for me, like, your professional job and things, you can say that's success. But to me, personal development and success has to be defined by myself. To me, if I think I'm improving at something, or I'm growing or developing, then that's the thing that's most important. And coming here, like, it baptizes you in struggle and differences and stress and new and being anxious and maybe unknowing and a bit scared. And then very quickly you develop very fast and find out quite quickly who you are and what you want to be.
That's what this whole thing's about. This whole podcast for us is talking with your mate and learning new things, and hopefully people that listen in take things away from it that maybe we didn't even know we were saying, you know, just like we have from other podcasts. I think if everyone does the same thing, if everyone's sharing a bit of love, sharing their stories, sharing their advice, where to go, where they wouldn't maybe advise going, and even going to those places that people advise you not to. Sometimes you have to experience it. You have to try. It's all trial and error, man. And I mean, that's what this podcast is, isn't it? Like we're having a crack. We just got to have a crack at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think we've gone through quite a lot there. There'd be quite a lot to go through, but I think that for a first podcast, I think we've summarized just about everything. So I think we'll wrap it up there. I hope you've got to know more about myself and Aaron, and I hope you enjoyed the podcast. You've learned something, or you learn a little bit maybe about what we're aiming to achieve and the sorts of topics we'll be discussing. If you're into any of that, if it tickles your fancy, please subscribe to the podcast and keep listening. We'll be pumping these out every single week if possible. So stay tuned and stay safe.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to Not Your Normal Life, the podcast by Alex Curley and Aaron Baxter. We hope you enjoyed. If you would like to get in contact with the podcast, you can reach us at nynnl@gmail.com. That's the abbreviated form for Not Your Normal Life, nynnl@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing some feedback, contributions for future podcasts, opinions, and all the rest of it. Thank you, stay tuned, and stay safe.